So yeah, I'll start again with another huge thank you for you guys being here. This is the Pixel to Plate, a presentation of food and video games panel at MAGFest 2018. I've done a couple panels at different conventions before. I've been to Camp Fangamer, which was all about Earthbound. I've also done food panels at steampunk conventions. Those were fun because I actually got to live cook for people. It was like a cooking show. I don't think they really go for that here, but maybe someday. So let's get going. Yep, this is about me. There I am up there. Like I said, I'm level 1 chef on the internet. My handle's usually that first one, that at LVL1_chef. And level1chef.com is the blog where I do all this video game food. It's probably on those recipe cards that I handed out. So you can see here that, there's some Breath of the Wild food on there, Splatoon 2 down in the right corner. I got the shroom cake from Paper Mario, sweet rolls up there from Skyrim. So, that's my contribution to the internet. And quick before I get started, I wanted to mention that I'm currently working with a team to produce an Earthbound-themed cookbook called Mother's Cookbook. And we've been really successful on Kickstarter so far, so if you're interested in that, if you just Google that, you can find it. And if there's time later, I'll talk about it, but that's not what this panel is about. So this panel is about talking about food, kind of like categorizing it. And when I was thinking about what to do for this panel, because I know I wanted to do a food and video games panel, and I was like, I could do like top 10 weird foods, or I could do like the best looking food or something. It didn't seem engaging. So I know it's early, so I'm not gonna engage you guys, but it is I wanna get you thinking about food in this way. So I have video game food in 3 ways here. One is gameplay. So you see I have a picture of Breath of the Wild and I have Cooking Mama. So that is where food is your player agency. That's what you're doing in the game. It's completely necessary for it to be food, or it wouldn't make sense. So obviously in games where you physically cook, that's a gameplay element. Cooking Mama is a game all about that. And there's more we'll get into. The second down here is world building. And this is where food kind of takes a back seat, but it helps to frame the game in the world. I have a picture from Etrian Odyssey, Untold 2, The Fanfare Night, which has the longest name of any game. And it has a cafe where you can find monster parts in the dungeons, bring it back to this chef, and she will discover these hidden recipes. It's really cool. It's definitely not necessary, but and it doesn't really involve too much gameplay, but I think it's important because it's kind of the middle ground between this gameplay and the last one, the aesthetic. And I don't want anyone to feel like aesthetic doesn't count or it's not as good, because sometimes it's the best, because they don't need to care about anything other than making it look good or just theming games or levels around food. I'm sure you've seen a lot of dessert-themed levels in games. It's just it's a trope. It's actually on TV Tropes, I found out. It's called Level 8. So here's, I wanted to get into more of what I mean by those categories. So gameplay, here I have Stardew Valley, Don't Starve, Overcooked down there, and Cooking Mama. So like I said before, these are games that absolutely require cooking or food for them to be how they are. You don't need to necessarily cook in Stardew Valley, but it's all about, and Stardew Valley, Harvest Moon, Rune Factory, all those games kind of center around food and at the very least growing it. We have Don't Starve, which right in the name, if you don't eat, you will lose. So it's pretty important to interact with food in that way. Cooking Mama. Do you guys like Cooking Mama? Is that a game that people play? Okay. I bought the most recent one. It's the Sweet Shop, because I'm a pastry chef in real life. I guess I could have said that. when I was talking about myself. I have real credentials. So I got the sweet shop one, which is the most recent, which is all about pastries and cakes and stuff like that. And it was like $20. So I don't know if it's just like shovelware now, but I had fun with it. And then Overcooked down there is a game where, if you haven't played it, you and your teammates are trying to create these meals in this manic kind of modular kitchen that's always changing, and you have to like race against the clock to make things not catch on fire, or you need to like do the dishes and stuff like that. It's a pretty fun party game, but once again, very centered around the food. Wouldn't really exist without it. Next one here is world building, and right up in the top left is kind of what I was talking about with the malasadas. These are games that use food to establish themselves in the game world, kind of like I said, world building, but very grounding. Just like, I know I had a really good way to say.
Well, I think they also help to kind of establish the culture that you're in as well, which is really interesting. It helps with actually creating this whole, I mean, I know aesthetic is a completely different category, but it almost builds the aesthetic of the world. Yeah,
definitely. And that's a good point, culture in this world building thing. I'm sure that video games are some of our first exposures to Japanese cuisine, other than anime, other than Chinese food.
Which doesn't count.
Yeah. So like, I remember playing, how many games have onigiri and rice balls in it? Like every single game. And if you're a kid growing up in America, you probably don't know what that is unless you do some research on it. Yeah, I got that slide coming up. But yeah, exactly. And that's a good point. Localization. Because a lot of these games are made in Japan and obviously cater to that kind of Japanese diet. But when you localize a game like we see up there on the top right with Earthbound, you would take a strawberry tofu, which probably seemed weird in the 90s, not so much now, but it seemed weird in the 90s, so the English localizers just decided to make it more weird and call it trout-flavored yogurt. And that recipe is in the Earthbound cookbook, and it does taste good, trust me.
It's delicious.
Down there, we have Final Fantasy XIV. So this, and I could have put WoW in there, I could have put Skyrim in there. This is like, I don't believe you need to be a culinarian to play Final Fantasy XIV. It's there to enhance everything else. It's like, oh, there's a cool restaurant in this big city, and there's like chefs that are doing their thing. I'm really into that. I'm currently trying to level up my culinarian to max, but definitely not necessary for the game. So I think it occupies this world building aspect more. And then I got some Odin Sphere down there. Same thing. Like there's a restaurant in the game, not super integral to the story on a whole, but it's cool. And I mean, I have a slide coming up, or a couple, on Vanillaware games, just in general, always have really awesome looking food. And the final little category I have here is aesthetic. And this is where the food really doesn't have anything to do with the game. Like we got a Mario Kart 8 track up there that's just it's made of cookies and stuff. And like, it's a racing game, but food is done because it's something that we can all relate to, and everyone likes it. Everyone likes looking at. I don't think anyone doesn't like looking at pictures of food. It's like the easiest way to get Instagram followers. Fun fact. So games use it a lot because it draws people in, especially like down on the bottom right, Candy Crush, or bottom left, Candy Crush. Oh, there's my panelist. Hey, what's up? So Candy Crush. Not food related at all, other than that it's actually candy. It could have been shapes. It could have been anything. So if you want to catch your breath, this is Evan Butler.
Hey.
He's my friend. He's also helping me on the Mother's Cookbook.
Dan.
Spoilers?
Hey, Dan. Hey, what's up? Hey, Dan. You look nice. I like your shirt. What'd I miss?
Well, it took us a while to get like this stuff set up, so not bad. I'm just going over the categories here. You can see.
Aesthetic.
Yeah, with the spaces. In a bit, I'm going to kind of open it up a little more for discussion. I just wanted to establish these kind of categories that I've kind of come to know as I've been doing my video game food research. It sounds weird to say, but yeah,
I kind of like it though.
Yeah. So once just to go over what this aesthetic is for you, Evan, is just like games that use food as, level skins, basically, like Cuphead down there. That's just, it doesn't have anything to do with the gameplay of Cuphead. It's just like, let's put a candy level in there. Let's make a cake boss and stuff like that.
I do love Cake Boss.
Yeah, it's good. And so I'm gonna plug myself just like for 10 seconds. The Animal Crossing sweet set up on the right there. I actually made that for Christmas as like a gingerbread house.
Do you have any pictures? Can you show the class?
Yeah, I can show the class at the end.
Ooh.
I didn't want this to be about me. I wanted it to be about the food.
While you're up here on your podium.
Yeah. So now I'm kind of opening it up to games, singular games or like series of games. And I was going to talk to my panelists, and if any of you want to chime in, I know it's early and you don't have to. I'm not going to wait.
Raise your hand if you're hungover. I see one half.
That's really impressive.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's more impressive that you're hungover and you made it. Thank you.
That means you must really care about breakfast.
I wish at the panel at Camp Fangamer I actually had like a spread of food, like for an intermission. That was fun. Sorry.
There's not food?
It's water.
Brian, I ran here.
You did? Well, that's your own fault. So these are just going to be slides of individual games, and I was going to talk to you all about what you think the food in these games kind of represent. So this is Skyrim here. So this is very similar to World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, where there's a crafting system for food, but it's not like integral to the story. So Evan, this was I would say this would be like world building, because it's not integral to the gameplay. It's not front and center, but it is there, and it builds the world.
World building, power word. I'm sorry, you made a mistake.
No,
I'm here. That's the mistake.
No,
Well, what I really love about their food is that they make it look rustic, because it's supposed to, because they're trying to establish an era in this case as well. So you see here, like the mushroom and cheese quiche probably doesn't look like one that you're going to see on Instagram, but it looks like one that would be in this world. So it helps to immerse you into the gameplay itself.
Immersion, that was a word I wanted to use. Thank you.
Power word.
That's another word. So here's something, Evan, you can speak to. You probably know this game.
So this is Undertale?
When's that meme gonna die?
It died a long time ago, but I'm still here. So this is Earthbound, and Earthbound had a lot of just really wacky and zany food items. I'm sure all of you are familiar with Earthbound because you're all hipsters and you're here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I see you. So, and Earthbound's pretty awesome, and Brian and I are actually working on an Earthbound-themed cookbook right now. And so we're bringing together a lot of just like the really, really weird food items. And some of those food items were, I don't want to say like mistranslated, but they're essentially mistranslated when the game was ported from Mother 2, which was the Japanese version, into Earthbound, which was the English version. And so you end up with like weird items like a peanut cheese bar, which was originally something called a manaka, and it's really fascinating. And one of the really cool things about Earthbound is that you can like check items, and there's like a little description of that item.
Sometimes a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like 5 sentences.
Yeah, and so like the description of like jerky will go like really deep into like how to make jerky and like the history of jerky, and it's just like it comes like far out of left field. And so it's just like it's an interesting thing where and where a lot of RPGs just simply say, oh, it's a red liquid that restores your mana. But in Earthbound, it's like, oh, this this royal blah 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 came from King blah 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 when blah 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 blah, and it just goes on. You're like, what were these people thinking of when they're writing it up? And it's really charming, and I want to see more games do that. Undertale did that pretty well, and so
Well, Earthbound was a big inspiration for him, so I think he took some of that writing.
maybe.
So Earthbound here, the cool thing about this game is that it follows Ness and company across the entire world of Earthbound, and they do a really good job of having food in the game that represents all the different countries and places that he goes to. He starts in Americana, so it's all burgers and fries and pizza and stuff. And then he'll go to this place where it says they don't have pizza on their menu. Pizza.
Pizza. We don't have that trash here.
And this is like Monaco. This is like Italy and France. So they have fancy stuff like pasta de summers and a chef's special, and you go into the restaurant and the person at the host stand is like, oh, you're not here with your parents, like we'll give you something to go, like don't sit in our restaurant.
They're better than us.
Yeah. So that's a really good example of world building once again. This is once you get to places like Scotland. They're not actually called Scotland, but a place like Scotland or a place like Egypt or a place like Thailand, they put food in the game, like a Scottish stew or a Molokea soup or things like that, and the jerky, like you said before, that are very connected to those places.
Or just a whole bunch of haggis.
There's no haggis in the game, but you could name your favorite food haggis, and then it'd be in the game. But they wouldn't have it on their menu.
If your favorite food is haggis, please leave this panel. This guy knows what's up. He has a sense of humor.
Yeah. So someone mentioned this before, the jelly-filled donuts here. So Pokemon, I've talked a lot about Pokemon already, so we might skip through this one pretty fast, but. Yeah, you see the Malasada and the Lumiose Galettes down there are very indicative of Hawaii and Paris.
I don't want to say that Japan is completely obsessed with Hawaii and Paris, but they are. So, have you ever heard of Paris syndrome?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I think my sister has it, but she's a French teacher, so I think she made it.
All right, so
she's
allowed.
So Paris syndrome it's not really a syndrome. It's a thing that occasionally does happen to specifically Japanese tourists who are they're Francophiles. They love France, and so they'll travel to Paris or Bordeaux or some part of France, and they will be disappointed. They will be so disappointed with what they see that they will. They'll get severe anxiety. And it's so bad that the Japanese embassies and consulates, they actually set up a hotline for Japanese citizens to call in if they feel like they're suffering from. Yeah, no, this is real.
Suffering.
Yeah, if they're suffering from Paris syndrome. And I thought that's kind of...
I feel like everyone here should have a Japan syndrome hotline to call.
It's true. It's true.
I'm going to drop $800 on MAGFest to help talk me out of it.
Oh, man. So I went to Japan recently, and their food is absolutely beautiful. I'm sure all of you watch anime because what else are you going to do on prom night? Ha, 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 ha. Video game reference. Ha. I like you. We could be friends after this. But so if you've ever watched a Japanese sorry. I crack myself up. A lot of the food is it's gorgeous. It looks fantastic. But if you go to Japan, it does look that good. And then you go to McDonald's and you feel disgusting. But even their 7-Eleven, like onigiri, which is the rice balls, it looks amazing and it tastes really good and it's pretty cheap. And then you go to here and you get Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
And then you run to a panel. And then you're here. I love all of you.
One of the things I really liked about living in Japan was outside most restaurants, there will be a display case with food that is prepared exactly how it's going to look. So even if you don't speak a lick of Japanese,
Yeah, you can find many documentaries about exactly that. And it's made out of like plastic. These plastic fake food sample things in Japan. There's a specific name for it, but they're a work of art and they're all hand painted and handmade. And I definitely suggest like you get on your phone right now and ignore me and just look up Japanese plastic food, and because there's some like really fascinating like mini documentaries about the series. So if you want to go deep into the world of Japan and really embrace the Japanese culture.
I still haven't been. I hope one day.
Get in the bus.
Yeah, the bus. So here's a game. Does anyone know this game? It's called Pierre Le Chef Out to Lunch. This is a very popular game in Germany. Actually, one of my German friends that I know through Twitch turned me on to this game. And this will be an example of an aesthetic game. It's all about this, Pierre Le Chef that. So the top left is like the European, or maybe the top left is like the Japanese one, and then the bottom right is the European one that looks like so much scarier than the top. I don't know why they do that with box art. It's just like I don't want to look at that weird face, like that child's too young to have a mustache.
And for those who don't know, Pierre de Chef is French for Pierre the Chef.
Actually, it's Pierre the Boss. Chef is French for boss.
I don't know what I'm saying. I apologize. I have lied to all of you.
So this is a game where it's a platformer. It's on like, I should have known this. I know there was a Game Boy port of it.
It looks like Genesis.
What? Yeah, it's either that or like Amiga or something. It was a computer game. I should have done the research.
I mean, this is your panel.
It is. But this is a game where you like run around and you jump, you like bop food on the head, and you put it in your little butterfly net, and then you put it in a cage. For reasons unknown. There's
Just
no
like real
text. It's just you dropped into it. So this is a game where it's very centered around food. And you'll see there's like the Mexico level. Every level is a different region.
I love the aesthetic of just the Japanese version, and it looks super cute, and it has this really great style. And then the westernized version it looks disgusting. It really does. It looks like one of those really bad like fan magazine covers that you saw in the 90s when there was like 50 different video game magazines. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I think I do know what you're talking about.
Game Power or Game Pro or whatever. I don't even know. It's great stuff.
Yeah, so this would be an aesthetic, I think, because they could have reskinned this with anything. It didn't need to be food. It could have been butterflies. It's all the same.
I'm sure it was reskinned from something better.
That is true. They do that. Cooking Mama, like we talked about before, if there wasn't food in this game, it would just be Mama. And although they don't have different Mama, they have like babysitting Mama. So, Science Papa? Is that a real game? Really?
Yes.
Whoa!
Really?
I gotta look that up.
Wow, that's
Because
not...
before I went to culinary school and did the food stuff, I did go for chemistry. So I aspired one day to be a science papa myself.
And now look
But
at you.
now I'm a cooking papa.
Talking about video games. This is your life now. I'm so sorry.
No,
I
it's
appreciate you. I do. I know we butt heads sometimes, and sometimes we yell at each other, but like I really do appreciate you, and I'm glad that you're my friend, and like it's fun just being up here with you and being able to do things. So thank you, Brian.
Oh, you're welcome. We're both just like idea guys. So there's going to be some clash. Don't worry about it. Let's talk about food.
Okay. We can go back to your thing.
So yeah, a lot of gameplay in this. I think a lot of people have played this. So it's something that's actually interesting about Cooking Mama is, it's rooted in Japanese cuisine a lot. So if you're curious about Japanese food and kind of want a little insight on how it's made, it's surprisingly accurate. Some of the things are kind of glossed over and they definitely skip steps, but I've been impressed to what degree they go into all the steps to make these things. I've mostly played this sweet shop game, as you know, if you've ever tried to bake anything, there's a lot of steps. But like, I thought it was just going to be like a WarioWare, but and it kind of is, but someone
there's a lot
spent
to
time
it.
on like, okay, we need
Somebody
to
knows.
hit
And
all these
one
points.
thing I do want to point out is if you look right at the photograph at the bottom right, the biggest one, right in the middle, you'll see that brown dish with the white on the side. That's curry. And, you know, everybody's familiar with curry. And I just think it's really funny that in Japan, curry's really big and they like to like post big promotional sort of photos and things of it. But in America, you don't see dishes with any sort of like brown lumpy mass thing in it. And it's just, it's just this, it's a difference in cultural appeal. And so you'll never really see like something like that being marketed in any sort of American commercial or game or anything like that. There's the chunky bean soup commercials, but they try to make you focus more on like the cute dog than like just like a big pile of beans just coming out of the bean can.
They roll the beautiful bean footage, though. So I'll speak to that and say, because I've worked in restaurants for like a decade. Stews aren't popular out, but they're very popular at home. Like there's a million stew recipes online that you can get, and you can buy them in like cans and stuff, but not a lot of restaurants are being like, we have a special tonight, it's a brown lumpy mass of stew.
Well, just imagine a world where you're excited to go to Applebee's to get their new hearty chili. Does that hurt? It hurts me. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
But the fun never stops because it's packed with recipes, just like this panel.
Oh boy.
So I'm looking for help here because I've never played WoW. Anyone played WoW here? Did anyone explore the cooking mechanic in WoW? I think this was Mist of Pandaria. So this, in my research, this is when it was cool, and then Legion came out and they like ruined it. So I thought this was cool because it's like you're learning all these different ways of like they liken it to martial arts styles, but it's ways of like the pot or ways of the steamer and stuff like that. And I really like that. And I think I would categorize this one as like, it's definitely world building because it has this whole race of pandas that are, you know, have these ancient cooking arts, which is cool.
It's a metaphor for Asia.
It's actually in Mist of Pandaria, you see the top right picture there. You teach that little panda in that game, and then when Legion, the expansion, came out, down on the right, he becomes the chef that now you go to because you've taught him so well. You go to him, and he researches the recipes for you. So I like that continuity. Like I said, I haven't played this, and there's a few games on this that I haven't played because when I decided to do this panel, I'm like, food and video games, let's cover every video game. And so I spent like a week just downloading like 1,000 pictures of food.
And somebody's panel didn't get in, and that's why I'm here.
Here's another odd one you may never have seen, kind of in the same vein as that Pierre Le Chef. This is Panic Restaurant. Which is really fun to watch. I watched a playthrough of it. It's just, and I also showed you the cute box art and then the Nightmare Fuel box art on the right. Why do they do that? Just why? It's like, who's appealed? Like, oh man, what game do I want to get?
I don't know. I think that's just that 90s, like, oh man, kids like stuff that's disgusting. Let's Ren and Stimpy it up. and then they did. And now we look back and we're just filled with pain.
Yeah. So this is a cool platformer. It's you like swing a weapon. It's not a jump on things kind of thing. But so you go through this restaurant, this panic restaurant, if you will, to try to get to the end for the evil and beat the evil chef. But you fight all manners of food you see on there. There's like cookies coming at you. That's a boss of like 3 chickens in an oven that just fly everywhere. The game's really insane. But once again, it's a game that didn't need to be about food. They were just like, I want to make a platformer and I need a theme, and they just like put people like food, and they just did it, and that's fine. I want to reiterate that the aesthetic category is not bad, and sometimes I like it more because there's more creative freedom. Like if I'm looking to make, did anyone want to play Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom? All right.
You're cool.
So in that game,
I like
you
your
go
hat.
into, for those of you who don't know, do you want to explain it?
No, you can go.
Okay. It's a game where you are a cucumber, your ward is a persimmon, you're trying to find a tomato. Everything in this entire world is either a living vegetable, a regular vegetable, or like buildings made of vegetables. Literally, it's like the worst VeggieTales pipe, like acid trip ever.
So what you're saying is they don't know if they're made out of house or houses are made out of flesh.
Exactly. It's kind of
Okay.
like in Disney where you have Bluto, or you have Goofy, and he's a dog, but he talks and he wears pants. And then you have Pluto, who's a dog, but is a regular dog, and no one says anything.
You're making me uncomfortable. I didn't come to this panel to talk about things that got under my skin and are gonna bug me later. I came here for food. I was wrong.
Back to what I was saying. So in Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom, there you go into this nightclub, and you get like ushered into the bathroom, and you find an asparagus donut just in the trash. And so I was playing through this game on Twitch, and we got to that part, and people were like, "Well, you got to make that." So I have a recipe for an asparagus donut that I lovingly photographed in a trash can. So that's kind of where the aesthetic food is kind of nice, because like all I needed here was asparagus donut, and then like I could make anything.
Did it taste good?
It did.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Asparagus is pretty mild, especially when it's cooked down. It's like cooked down and mashed and folded into the donut dough.
Okay, you're right.
It's
Anything
okay.
mashed.
All right, so
boiled down.
replace asparagus with kale. Now you could see that.
And now I can pretend I'm healthy.
Yeah. Snuck some kale in there.
There's kale in my burger and French fries.
So these are a couple of different games. This is just my Vanillaware slide here. They have hands down the most beautiful food that I've seen in video games, and I would say it's aesthetic because it's so aesthetically pleasing. But like the Puka Cafe in Odin Sphere, there's an element to world building, and in Muramasa, it's like very entrenched in Japanese folklore, so obviously they have there's another onigiri, what do you know?
I think you mean a jelly-filled donut.
Yeah. Jelly-filled are my favorite.
It's a throwback.
And he's like he's the chef, you should know. Okay, Burger Time, did they have this year in the arcade?
I didn't see it.
Burger
I
Time?
love Burger Time. Burger Time, it's a really good arcade game.
I think they had Food Fight. I played Food Fight, which I actually didn't get any slides for. That's pretty. That's you run away from the evil chefs and you like pick up pies and throw them at people. Pretty fun. But Burger Time here is. So Evan, you can explain what the game is. You know how to play it, right?
Yeah, I'm an expert. Burger Time is it's the American
All right, I'm
version
gonna
of
save you.
Doki Doki Panic. I'm kidding. I'm joking. So it's an arcade game where the whole point is you're so on the top image right there. It's pretty much that you walk over the ingredients of a burger, and every time you walk over one, they fall down one rack. And so you want to avoid like the egg and the sausage, and you can't really defeat those enemies. You can just sort of throw pepper on them, which dazes them for a moment. So
You only have so much pepper, though. So.
What is this, the 1950s? So you try and assemble these burgers by walking over the ingredients. They fall down, and you get them all the way to the bottom, and then you have your 4 burgers. And it's like, oh, you beat the level. So it's like, it is aesthetics. This could easily be Donkey Kong, but it's not. But it's actually a pretty fun and engaging game, and I really enjoy it. And that, like, just imagine that box art, but he's like running from monsters, and he has like a gun, and suddenly it's Commando.
I will say that the Game Grumps did a episode or two about Burger Time, and I think Aaron was really adamant that you couldn't do this game if it wasn't burgers, but I think you could.
What about Flapjack Time?
Exactly. Or books.
I'm going to dedicate the next year of my life as to making as many bad ROM hacks of this game as possible. I'll be back in 1 year. Don't expect anything. Do you have a question?
Yeah. So the person right behind you.
That's your answer.
Would you feel too awkward to come up here and speak to Final Fantasy 15 for like a minute? So I do have, actually the next slide is that, but
just couldn't keep it together.
To be completely honest, it's a game I haven't played because I don't have a PS4 or anything. So well then I'll get it.
This changes everything.
Because that's one of the inspirations for the panel was just like the popularity of games like Final Fantasy 15. I'll just skip to it right now. Like Final Fantasy 15, like Breath of the Wild, which is also on here, that really made cooking part of the, like, brought it to the front and center. And I think that is probably going to inspire a lot of other game devs to include some kind of food, whether it be like a crafting system or just like beautiful food in their games.
And it goes just beyond beautiful food, because I think that the most recent iteration of this game, the food looks so realistic. That sandwich, you look like you could just pick it right off the page and eat it. They've got shadows, they've got lighting. It's not just beautiful artwork. It looks very realistic.
And I want to say something.
Okay.
So, and like this is something that's, probably will come up later on, is I don't want to say like sponsors in video games, but you can expect, at one point for sort of like almost like tie-ins, and not just like Pepsi Man like running around, just giant horrible advertisements, but like, the next Final Fantasy 16, if they were to have some sort of, a brand for like maybe like Kiko Man, soy sauce or something like that, like, companies would totally be willing to do that, like that. Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh my gosh, it's already happening.
Really? Yeah. That's also a game I haven't played.
When you said that brand of whiskey, I saw two people shake their head in agreement.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out. A few people here have just gotten sober. I see you. Sober up. I've got some Advil if you want some.
That's a really good point. And yeah, a lot of full disclosure, I play more older games than newer games, so that's probably why I don't know too much about Final Fantasy 15. But you could totally talk about Ignis if you want. Yes, you did. You were Ignis. Actually, that is the unofficial Final Fantasy 15 fan cookbook. Honestly, if you just type that into Google, you can find it. So,
is that your project? No. Okay. It's really interesting that like if you put a single effort into looking up like fan cookbooks, there's a lot of them out there, and some of them are like really small, and some of them are just kind of like really goofy. I was looking around and I saw one called Sheikah's Plate, like a Sheikah slate, and I thought that was funny.
It's a really good name. I'm so jealous that I didn't think of it.
It's not trademark, steal it.
No. But yeah, and I did hear about the photographing. Did you also hear that I think they tried to make actually make them outside, like at a campsite, in order to make sure like these things could actually exist. And that's a level of dedication that I feel like the
You wanna go
kindred
camping?
spirit. What?
Let's go camping.
Let's go camping and try to make. I don't think you can make that sandwich at the campsite, but
Ground the bread, till the
in your
flour.
portable mill.
Portable mill.
So Don't Starve is pretty fun, and they just came out with Don't Starve Together, which is a co-op. People play this game in here? Maybe.
Has anyone ever heard of this game?
Don't-
Okay. You don't have to actually answer my stupid questions. I'm enjoying my power.
So yeah, this is a game that is completely hinged on the fact that you are eating and collecting ingredients and putting it together. And I think it's with the Don't Starve Together now that you can like do it with friends. You kind of make this like stationed kitchen almost, because you can have one guy going out to like get ingredients and the other person focusing on like building the base, building the cooking implements and stuff like that. I really like it. I just got into it myself, but this is probably one of the more high profile games centered around cooking. And actually, I think we're going to get into more of those. I started off with some lesser known ones, but and this would be an example of gameplay in food, since it should stick to that.
Oh, I thought we already did Skyrim.
Ouch.
Does it hurt? Does it hurt?
Come on.
I'm sorry. It was there.
I totally peed my pants when I saw the first Breath of the Wild trailer and they showed that cook pot. I'm like, this is everything I always wanted. Because I think I've made every Legend of Zelda food, and they're mostly soups. But I feel like I made all of them before Breath of the Wild came out, and then Breath of the Wild jumped like 140 in my lap. I really like this. I put that bottom right panel down in there because in all the like stables there's a poster of a recipe, and you can't read it. And you might even miss it, but that'll give you like hints on new stuff to make.
That kind of reminds me too, you did this one recipe by Legend of Zelda, the Deku Nut Cake, where it was also from a poster that was in the game that you kind of translated. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, so in Wind Waker, there is a cafe on Windfall Island,
Yeah.
and the Milk Bar. And in the Milk Bar, there is a menu on the wall, and it's completely in Hylian. So people have translated it, and it's like it's like milk, something else. I can't remember right now. And the last thing is Deku Nut Cake, which is just like they totally made it up. And so that's a good example of where I would see Deku Nut Cake with nothing else and be like, okay, what do Deku Nuts look like? Kind of look like chestnuts. Let's make a chestnut cake. What goes with that? I put pears in it because they have the, how do you pronounce that? Hioi pears? The ones that the seagulls grab. I put pears in it. I put like coconut in it because it's all islandy, and that's why I really like
And
my hobby.
if you drop it, you get stunned.
Yeah.
Video game reference.
So-
We're all gamers here, right, guys?
So between Breath of the Wild and Final Fantasy 15 being like huge AAA titles and having a huge cooking element to them, that's why I think we're going to start to see more of this in games, because it's engaging. It's like a break. You're taking a break. Like literally in Final Fantasy 15, you take a break around the campfire. In this game, you need to heal, so you like calm down, stop fighting enemies for a while, and just like make food. And it's a nice juxtaposition, I think.
Whatever they're doing, it's working.
And it looks delicious. I got to give big shout outs to Battle Chef Brigade. Anyone check this out on Steam or Switch? So this game is my dream game. So I'll explain it for the people who don't know it. It takes Iron Chef and Smash Brothers, and like Match 4. What are those games?
Puyo Puyo Pop?
What?
Is it Puyo Puyo Pop?
Maybe the tile matching games.
Oh, so it's like Tetris Attack.
Yeah, kind of. It's like a whatever. So it meshes all those gameplays together in the same game. You follow this chef up here on the top right, the woman in blue. Her name's Mina, and she has aspirations to be like this great chef. So she goes to the capital city and joins the tournament to apply to become part of the Battle Chef Brigade. That is a group of battle chefs, which I love. I love any game where you can be a chef and fight things. So they go around and defeat monsters and make food out of monsters. And it's difficult to make monster food because they have like, they're monsters and there's poison and stuff in it. So you need like this dedicated elite force of battle chefs. So you can see there's like a kitchen coliseum, the 3 judges. They all want different elements, those either the water, fire, or green, ground or grass.
I like green food.
Yeah. They're just like, I want this to have the spiciness of fire. Like they kind of make it sound real, but at some point, I listened to the one of the game devs like talk about how he came up with it, and it's like we wanted to kind of mask it with this flavor thing, but after a while, it was just like, it's just make it Earth because it's going to be too confusing otherwise. So you get those parameters, and then like Chairman Kaga guy is up there, and he's like, use dragon meat. And then you need to run outside the kitchen coliseum and fight monsters in like a platforming beat-em-up brawler until they explode into ingredients. And you collect the ingredients, bring them back in, and you see in the bottom left, you throw them into your pot, and they're all associated with a certain combination of those colored circles. And then you need to play a puzzle game to like connect them all and raise the point value of your food. So it's crazy. It's super hard. Anyone who streams in here, it's the hardest game to stream in the world because you're thinking of like 3 different ways of playing the game at the same time and trying to do commentary. But the food is absolutely beautiful. I was able to get these high-res images from the guys. And actually, there's Fandom Foodies is a community of people like me who make food from not only video games, but like movies and comics and stuff like that. And we do themed months, and January is actually a Battle Chef themed month. So you'll probably, if you follow Battle Chef or something, they'll be retweeting a lot of this food in real life. Probably not this like crazy octopus tentacle thing, but you know, I could probably make that.
I'm going to be
roll
upset
cake.
if you don't actually. No, I want the octopus tentacle thing.
Octopus is expensive.
I have needs too, Brian. Do you ever think about those? Do you?
Well, it's interesting too with these food items and the Fandom Foodie group in general. It's almost a decision on whether you want to make something that looks exactly like it, or if you want it to be culturally appropriate, or so like. For example, the upper left-hand corner, that looks like a rack of lamb, potentially to me, but it's blue meat. So are you actually creating a cake that looks like this rack of lamb, or are you actually creating it and food coloring it? It's very fascinating watching all of these food artists determine what route to take when they're recreating these items.
Paint it blue.
Yeah.
Did you have a question, King DDD?
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was so fascinating. In one of the Pikmin games, they have this whole laundry list of recipes that sound super delicious, but they're all made out of bugs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
love Pikmin 2. Those are Louis' notes on things.
Do you find it difficult sometimes, sort of taking these recipes that kind of sound good, but also are made with like things that you probably wouldn't
Well, one of them is really fascinating. So the mushroom cake from Paper Mario, it's actually a cake that's made out of mushrooms. And when we were trying to figure out how we wanted to make it, right? It looked cool, it sounded weird, it's got to taste fun. So we did so much research on how to incorporate mushrooms in a sweet capacity. So just delving into the internet, we found these super high-end pastry chefs that were using this variety of mushrooms called candy cap mushrooms, that when you get them in a dried capacity, they smell exactly like maple syrup.
And they are pungent. Like, keep them closed or your
Fills
entire
the whole room.
Yeah, super strong maple syrup smell. But yeah, we ordered some candy cap mushrooms, ground it down, folded it into the cake batter. Because in Paper Mario, I think the ingredient list for that is just mushroom and
Cake mix. Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. Made a buttercream with like complementary flavors. So we put like a little chocolate in it. We put a little actual maple syrup in it, and then I cooked down some enoki to garnish the top. So it's not easy, but
and then we gave it to friends and laughed while they
yeah.
ate it.
because they didn't, and we're like, what flavor
What's
is that?
this
And they're
maple
like, I don't
chocolate
know.
cake?
And I
It's
said,
mushrooms.
Yeah, you just eat mushrooms.
Wait. When I went over to your place, you gave me donuts, and you said they were totally not spider donuts.
No.
I hate spiders.
Well, they're already dead.
But now they're inside of me.
And I'll say real quick for Battle Chef Brigade, Pixelated Vika or Pixelated Provisions on the internet made one of the foods from this game that involves like cricket wings, and she actually got the dried crickets.
Cricket flour.
Cricket flour.
They actually make it, yeah.
And made it so it's not like made of an entire like giant bug, but you know we're doing our best. And I think people appreciate that.
Well, actually, cricket flour, I mean, is pretty common in baking capacities in other countries, and it's actually very high in protein, too. So even though we might find it kind of weird and funky, it's utilized in another capacity, so it's kind of fun to see how they can incorporate it.
It's high in protein and high in bugs. Shut up. No.
Roach milk? From what?
No.
Actually, scientists have discovered that there is a particular roach that produces milk, and it's very high in protein, calcium.
I'm into it. Keep talking.
Considering it as another potential food source to utilize protein.
If anyone reads like high-end frou-frou food magazines, they've been talking about that trend for a while of like replacing our protein more and more with ants and like stuff like, I think some restaurants literally had crawling ants. I hope no one's like real squeamish. Like crawling ants in like.
No.
Well, it's fascinating too because I mean we could go into the whole end of the food industry, but it's a sustainable source of food, right? We're constantly consuming all of these resources that we have, so we have to come up with these alternative means of creating food. So maybe roach milk's the next new thing. Who knows?
Yeah, they're bringing it back. This is Cook Serve Delicious. This game is another game that's like integral to its gameplay.
I thought this was a magazine cover.
Yeah, the art is kind of uncanny valley for me, but it's
It
on
looks
there.
like cake,
it's on
but it's
Steam.
not.
It's on Steam. It's fun. And Overcooked, I talked about a little bit before. This is a fun party game where you can see down in the bottom left there, like the kitchen is spread between two trucks that you need to like frantically jump over and help each other cook things. I love this game, and it's like the best couch co-op that you could ask for. But this would be another gameplay. This one though.
This is Donkey Kong?
Yeah. Hot take, aesthetic. You don't need food, Pac-Man. It's just points. It could have been anything, and that's kind of, I know, Actually, I was supposed to talk about like the history of food real quick. I feel like the history went from points, like in Pac-Man, to replenishing health, like in Earthbound or other RPGs. And now in games, it has a lot to do with buffs. Like in WoW and Final Fantasy XIV, you make this food and it replenishes like a little bit, even like Stardew Valley or something. It replenishes a little bit of health, but you gain buffs like better experience or more energy, or you're better at mining or something like that. And I feel like that's the full.
I think that's how Breath of the Wild 2 really
Yep.
encompassed the whole food program that they built in.
Yeah, because you can get like immunity to heat, or you can get more stamina, stuff like that. I had something else, but I forgot.
Well, we kind of brushed over Kirby really quickly too, and Kirby for me is so nostalgic because it's cute, it's adorable, it's fun, and it has recognizable food items. So I didn't discover Earthbound until recently. I didn't grow up with these kind of food dishes in video games. It was more complementary food items. So like you have a slice of cake, you have a tomato, you're eating these things, they're recognizable. So you're almost creating this bond between yourself and the game. I mean, there's really, what reason to have those fruits in Super Mario Sunshine other than to have Yoshi eat it? But they're tropical fruits, so you kind of create this this relationship with the game, and it kind of immerses you in it. So I've always found that fascinating.
That's true. I would say Kirby as well, even though he constantly eats things. It's also a little bit of an aesthetic thing, because he could be like sucking up anything.
It's true. He could be sucking up anything, but he likes food. I don't know what you were trying to say with that. I'm so sorry. This is the earliest I've been awake in a week.
It's okay.
I also spent a lot of time wondering what Kirby would taste like if I ate him.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
That's dark.
You don't want to eat spiders, but you'll eat like an alien blob
sentient
monster.
blob. That's what he gets for being delicious.
This game, does anyone know this game? This is Bravely Second for the 3DS. It's kind of a spiritual successor to old school Final Fantasy games, where there's a very intense job system. I freaked out about this game because you can be a patissier and once again fight people with cakes, which was so cool. And you look awesome. I was actually cosplaying this guy earlier in this convention, but so you're this badass chef guy, and your whole, I guess the archetype of the class you are is a debuff or a poisoner, because you imbue your cakes with either defense down or slow or poison, confuse, makes you more susceptible to like cold spells or something, and you just fling the cake at the enemies and they eat it, and then they're like, oh, I feel sick, and then your other guys like beat them up. I really like that.
In real life, it's like alcohol.
Oh, he also has a skill called flambe, where he just like lights a bunch of wine on fire. It's great.
It's expensive but effective.
But once again, I think it is aesthetic, because it could have been just like poison knives or something. But I think it's super cute. I love those outfits.
Except for, you say it's aesthetic, but also in real life, I've been more poisoned by like food like Chipotle than assassins. So.
That's true. This is, how many more slides we got? No, okay. Yeah, 2 more slides. So this is the Tales of series. Has always had a lot of food in it. And so I know in Tales of Symphonia, it's like something you can make after the battles. I think in Berseria, it became something you went out to find. But I always like the food in these games, because it's a very Japanese menu. So once again, it's like getting that exposure to people who probably haven't had it before, like cabbage rolls and onigiri and curry, like so many curries, the Mabo curry. And so I kind of already talked about this game, but I think we're almost up. But I wanted to say thanks for coming to the panel. And that's thank you. That's the Final Fantasy XIV Culinarian, which is also a super cool chef coat. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now, because I don't. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. I think it was the first slide. They had a screenshot from Utopia.
Yeah.
That game, a lot like Earthbound, has a lot of really funny flavor text for a lot of different. Like, I think my favorite is for like beating up the spiders, you get spider rolls like sushi. The flavor text is just close your eyes and pretend it's crab.
Nice. I love that you mentioned Metopia, because Charlotte and I and two of our other friends were a Metopia group last night, and there's a chef class in that game as well, because that's my whole life, is just playing chefs in video games and being a chef in real life.
That's who he is.
But yeah, that's another. It's had like over 100 different food items in it. I tried to make some of them. I think I made hieroglyph toast. You do it. If you want to toast bread in your oven, just take some foil and cut out whatever pattern you want, put it on the toast, and it's kind of like getting a suntan. 'Cause you take the bread out and it's only toasted where the cutout was, so I was able to like make these little hieroglyphs. It's pretty cool.
Well, Metopia I really love as well, because you're inserting your friends' faces into the game as well, and then you have the opportunity, once you get to the inn, to feed them these food items. So that's always fun to see how they react and interact with this food as well.
Yeah, because not everyone likes the same food.
We have recipe cards.
Yes, we do. And also, just to reiterate, these are my handles on the internet if you want to know what I'm doing, and I'll try to pull up and we have recipe cards here. I think I passed out the malasada. Anyone who didn't get a big malasada recipe, you can come up, and we also have a few more recipe cards for the Mother's Cookbook, Earthbound Cookbook project that we're working on. If you're interested,
It's
you can
on the
come on up.
Kickstarters.
Yeah.
We need your money so that we can make food. Internet money.
We've already had incredible support. I'm beside myself. So clearly, I don't know if it was Breath of the Wild and Final Fantasy 15 that got everyone jazzed up about cooking and video games, but people seem to really enjoy this. And shout outs to like the World of Warcraft cookbook. My friend Chelsea has authored that. That's super cool. That's an official Blizzard product. She also made a Hearthstone cookbook. You're interested in that? That's like a drink. That's more drinks.
Brian might be beside himself, but I'm beside Brian. I just want to say that. That's it. That's the pun. That's the joke.
I've been to a lot of panels at MAGFest, and at least at one point in every one, there's always that cringy joke.
That's me. I am the cringe. Yes.
Yeah, so just fan cookbooks in general are pretty prolific. Game of Thrones,
Harry Potter.
Yeah, no, the unofficial Harry Potter cookbook, it was a New York Times bestseller in like 2010. It was massive, and it was like unofficial, and I'm just like, wow, I could have put together some crappy spell recipes and made $1 billion. That would have been nice, and so I made an
Well,
Earthbound
it's so
cookbook.
fun too how they create products as well, because nobody's going into that going, oh, I really want to try Birdie Bot's every flavor beans. I wonder what vomit and earwax tastes like. But they make it because you remember that as part of the storyline and part of the world that you were immersed in.
It's disgusting.
I think I mean I don't think anyone's coming in here to like do a panel after this, but I want to make sure that you guys know it's okay to leave at this point unless you have any
It's
more
okay
questions.
to leave, but if you do leave, I'll be sad. I was really hoping someone would just get up and run out.
Thank God.
Dan, I'm on to you.
So actually, I have a question. Were there any games that I did not touch on that you thought that I should have, or that I should look into for some recipes? Yeah.
Yes.
The diabetes game. That would have been such a good thing to talk about. Yeah, it's a game where you play this Captain Nullivan who has diabetes, and you need to keep your blood sugar at the right amount. And like at the end of every stage, it'll be like, here's a tip for, being healthy.
And if you die in the game, you die in real life. What I thought was really funny is that the Captain Novolin trademark is actually dead. So you can actually pick it up and just use it for whatever you'd like. So me and my buddy was like, we should make it a gritty reboot of Captain Novolin called Captain Novolin Type Type 0. And I was like,
God.
no, I mean, maybe if it's like actually like informative. And he's like, no. And I was like, no, I'm out.
Any others?
Questions, comments, comment.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Mm. The world building. I just made those up, so like.
It's okay. The points are made up. Nothing matters. 10 points to Dan. Oh.
Definitely. I love that because that's one of my Twitch streams every week. I do the level 1 test kitchen where we just like pick a video game food and like try to make it work. And a lot of the times I'm pretty successful. Like, sometimes I'm surprised. I tried to make the miner's treat from Stardew Valley that has carrots, milk, and sugar. And it's like I tried to do this pulled sugar thing, and I burnt the ever-living heck out of my hands.
Yeah.
The
For
stream
everyone
loved
to
it.
watch.
They thought it was hilarious.
It was awful.
So you
Yes.
come for the food, but you stay for the accidents. That's life.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny with the mushroom recipe. Brian actually hates mushrooms. So having to develop that recipe, he was like, oh, it's kind of good, but I still don't like it, but it's okay.
The forbidden fruit is human.
Oh, God.
I don't
think we've tried anything
Yeah, I don't think
super weird.
I've written anything completely off. I know that the double fried super schwaffle from Splatoon 2 is basically like a waffle sandwich with chocolate and then a fried tempura shrimp on top of it.
It was good.
Doable, but I won't do it again. Yeah.
What is like your dream food to make for like any video game? What is something you want to try but haven't yet?
Human.
I really like doing large projects. So maybe a giant cake, like they have that giant cake from Animal Crossing. They have the
you gotta
giant
go
cake
with
from
the Mario Party.
from-
just a giant Mario Party, just a bunch of people running around.
Super
playing
Mario
games.
RPG cake.
Yes, Bunt.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Super Mario RPG. Is
I'm a
best game.
pastry chef, like by trade, so I tend to do that. So that's like more in my comfort zone, and I can like write down a recipe, and it's not just like throwing stuff in a pan, which is okay. But yeah, definitely like giant cakes. I love that. Currently, I'll say what I do, and then hopefully you'll follow and just see if I change it, because
We've got another project that we're
Yeah.
working on. We're going to be opening up a board game cafe in upstate New York, July of this year. So as we start to ramp up renovations of the space, and he's developing the full menu for the cafe as well, which will be on the test streams, the times are going to change a little
Yeah,
bit.
but currently it's twitch.tv/. level 1 chef. It's like LVL underscore one. I'll tell you later. And so I stream Wednesday at 8, Thursday at 8, Friday at 10, and then Saturday at like 12:30. And so the Wednesday one's just a game, just playing a game, usually food related. And then Thursday is the test kitchen, like I just mentioned. Friday at 10 is like, we call it Friday Night Farming, where we play farm sim games, because those are also food related. So we played a Rune Factory game recently, and we got married to our waifu, and now we're playing Stardew Valley.
His name was Cinnamon, naturally.
Yeah. And I've been doing the bento box brunch stream on Saturday, where we make a bento box from start to finish.
And they're so cute.
They're cute.
You guys don't have to sit down. You can come up if you want to talk to us or do whatever.
I really appreciate everyone who did make it out here. They told me it was like, oh yeah, you got the 10 a.m. slot on Sunday, and I was like, all right,
Yeah.
all
Just
right.
Take like 5. I'm trying to get rid of all of them. My life is empty. Thanks again. I'll never forget our time together.
Yeah,
I like your outfit.
certainly.
Well, I think real quick to piggyback off of the question here on something that you're excited to make, in the development of Mother's Cookbook, a lot of those recipes have not been finalized. Is there a recipe that you are so excited to research and do?
So in Earthbound,
Yeah.
specifically, that's the game.
We're all out of Earthbound cards. It's over.
Oh man, those
Earthbound's-
are promos. Shiny reverse foils.
Yeah.
You got them.
Yeah, but the cookbook it's on Kickstarter right now. It's at $39,000. Like we asked for $10K. We're at $39,000. I mean, it's not about the money. It's about the experience.
So Evan's our project manager, and I'm the chef. So that's why we have different. Like,
See, he's like, I want to make food, and I'm like,
let's make a thing.
what?
So in Earthbound specifically, I'm really excited about doing the Kraken fin soup, which is a soup that's understandably made from this giant sea monster. And I think I'm going the route of like adjusting a shark fin soup recipe. That's pretty popular in China. No shark actually in it, but
Aw.
I'm looking forward to that. We actually hit some stretch goals to add Mother 3 food into it, if you're familiar with that game.
It's the game where your mom dies.
Oh my god.
Oh my God, Evan.
First of all, spoilers.
That's like the first part of the game is that your mom dies. I'll stop
Well,
talking.
there's some fun food items in there as well. Like in Newport City, there's an item called hot dog sushi, which he actually made last year that was surprisingly delicious.
Actually, I think you made that, Charlotte. Charlotte kind of took the reins on the hot dog sushi. It's really good.
I was just really hungry that day.
I should have just got like a slideshow of.
We should have just had more
it looks
foods.
like it froze.
Oh, no, it froze.
Oh, there we go. There's some more. There, Kirby. Yeah,
There you go. Yeah.
it's going crazy.
There we go.
All right, that's the super schwaffle down there on the right.
Oh yeah, and then the mushroom cake right above it.
There it is.
See, doesn't that food look good?
It looks
know.
good.
I'm hungry.
The shroom cake was like 100% good.
was
The
very tasty.
schwaffle was good. Like I could dip a shrimp in chocolate and be like, all right. But like
Bottom line.
bottom left, that's the fruitcake from Breath of the Wild. I
cake.
entered Binging with Babish's thing, and I got runner-up with that one.
Bindu with Babush.
I haven't gotten the cookbook, though. Oh, who? Do I know you? Oh, I didn't know if you also entered the contest, because I know like most of the people were part of that. So like if Binging with Babish is watching, I don't know where the camera is, but like
I think
Hello, senpai.
they probably aren't even streaming this. They're like,
I want that
Video
cookbook.
games.
I earned it. Yeah. And the middle one is like a salmon meunier from Breath of the Wild as well. Salmon meunier, in a lot of games, it's apparently really popular in Japan.
It's tasty.
I like food.
Yeah.
Question. You, dark woman.
Oh. All right. That's a good question. I got a lot to talk about this one. Yep. So Mother's Cookbook originally was 50 recipes. We've hit enough stretch goals that it's going to be upwards of 75 now.
So it's probably going to be about 150 to 200 pages, depending on if we want to shrink things down. We have to talk to our publishing partner about that.
It got real big, real fast. So in the game, there's a lot of food. Instead of just being like a potion or an ether or a mega elixir or something like that, it's all like hamburger or pizza or I don't know any other food from the game.
Like, you know, a can of soda. But like also, it's not just that can of soda. It's not just that sort of basic, like, you know, this is a hot dog. It also sometimes goes further, and so you have things like, like a mammoth burger or like a luxury jerky. And so it's really funny like that at times.
Yeah, and I definitely know more of the food. I was just kidding. So there's food right from the game that has stats and everything, but in order to like dress it up, we're also adding some inspired by recipes that are just like from us thinking up, like, you know, you probably can't see it all the way, but the top right there is the garlic bread recipe. There's just a character in Earthbound who's all about eating garlic and being strong. So we're like, let's have a roasted garlic bread recipe because that makes sense. And there's like that blue sandwich up there. That's not actually in the game, but there's a whole cult of people that paint everything blue. So we're like, oh, we should have a blue sandwich with like blue bread and blueberries. And
Earthbound's a wacky game, guys.
Yeah,
It's
so
filled
so
with
there's a
wacky
good
adventures.
there's a good balance between like canon food and fun inspired by things. We actually hit a stretch goal that was adding a whole chapter on mixed drinks based on things in the game. So that's completely from us.
I'm really excited about the mixed drinks. They're actually turning out really fun. My cousin, he's helping me make the mixed drinks, and he's a mixologist, and he has like the license, and he's real. And so we went over to his house, and he's like making all these mixed drinks, and then he's just like, I don't want to throw away all this alcohol, and I was like, I don't drink, and he just looks at me, and he's like, I hate you, and then he got really drunk.
Yeah. Wow. I think we did consider that as a stretch goal, as a backer thing. Since I do that anyway, I definitely will be cooking through the cookbook because it'll be there, and whether it be when it's done or whether it be like tweaking things, I'm sure both of those are pretty interesting. But I wish that I could do that as my job, just like cooking show or just teach how to cook. That's my favorite thing. So I'll definitely be doing stuff from this book on Twitch.
And the Level 1 Chef brand at this point has been predominantly focused on the blog and Twitch streaming, but one of the goals is to break more into those YouTube videos, tutorials, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm not good at video editing yet, so I haven't done YouTube videos. But
Getting there.
That's why we have
like,
Pat.
I have a whole blog of very in-depth recipes. So there's that. I hope your husband's into this. Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. That's the perfect in. Korean, what was it? Chef in my fridge.
Aw.
Oh, I really like that.
That's cool. Any further questions, comments?
I don't know, other fun shows about food. The Kantaro Sweet Salesman. That's crazy. And Midnight Diner, also on Netflix. A lot of cool food shows right now. Shokugeki no Soma is an anime all about cooking. That's insane.
I've just I know it's super low hanging fruit, but just Good Eats with Alton Brown. I downloaded all of it and I just watched all of it. I love it so much.
Yes?
What?
Not necessarily video games, but I haven't made anything from like animes. It's like I want to make the breakfast from Howlin' Castle.
Okay. I've had a lot of people ask me that actually, and I've been sticking with video games mostly because I know of people that do the anime cooking. Yeah?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, the Studio Ghibli
There you go.
cookbook.
And there's also Yum Penguin Snacks. Does a lot of food from the Crunchyroll series. It's out there. If you search, you find it.
Look, search your soul, you will find it.
Any other questions or comments?
Why are you people still here?
No, don't.
Okay, no.
Thank you so much for staying. I'm glad that you're interested enough to really absorb this. I feel like it's a hyper niche, like little tiny corner of what makes up video games. But it's like, I think when you get into it, I think the whole point of the panel was like, there's a lot to glean from, like, if you look past just face value, be like, why did they include those specific foods? Why did they localize something like this? Why is the game centered around food? Does it need to be? All those kind of things. Really interesting. So I'm glad that you found it at least a little bit interesting as well. And I want to thank all you guys for being here. And thanks to my co-panelists, Evan Butler and Charlotte Guyton, for being up here with me. My name is Brian Connor, and if you want any of my contact information, if you didn't get it, feel free to come up to me like right now, because I think we're done.
We're good.
Okay?
Thank you, everyone.